Welcome to our 2023 video on how to get published in the journal Policy and Politics. Today, I'm joined by one of the editors of the journal, Dr. Oscar Berglund from the University of Bristol, who's going to be sharing with us his wealth of experience of working on the journal. So please stay tuned to maximize your chances of getting published. Oscar, welcome.
Thanks, Jess.
It's lovely to see you, and thanks for sparing the time to provide an update on your top tips for would-be authors on how to get published in Policy and Politics. You've been an editor on the journal for over 2 years now, so you'll be really well versed in why some articles make the cut and some don't. We want to hear more details on that from you, but can we start with a bit of an intro to the team and a bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So we did one of these videos quite early on, and after we took over as editors, which was nearly 3 years ago now, and that was with my then co-editors, Professor Chris Weibel from University of Colorado in Denver, and Professor Claire Dunlop at University of Exeter. We then obviously received a lot of submissions to our journal, hundreds of submissions, and have seen many more papers being both accepted and rejected. And we were joined last year by Dr. Elizabeth Cabelle as a fourth co-editor from University in Reno. So we thought, this would be a good time to give a bit of an update, I suppose, of why we see what's the common reasons are for many papers being rejected.
It will be really useful for people. Let's start right at the beginning of the editorial process when authors are first thinking about submitting their paper to you. What should they be considering?
Yeah, so first of all, I just really want to recognize, and for everybody to recognize, the time investment that goes into each and every paper, both from the authors and also from us as editors. It takes time to submit a paper to a new journal, and adjusting it to that journal in style and so on, and just go through the submission. So I think it's important to not just send off papers to, and as many as it should be thought through. You should think through, why am I sending this paper to this journal? And we might get on to things to think about there. Also from our perspective then as editors, so our policy is that at least 2 of us looks at every paper before we make a decision. But in actual fact, most of us, or 4 of us, look at most submissions. So that's a significant time investment for us. So it's, I think, good for people to think harder about why you send something to Policy and Politics, or for that matter any other journal. And I mean, the number one reason why we reject papers in Policy and Politics is that they are not relevant for our journal. They are what we would call kind of out of scope for what we do. And here I'd really like to point people to the editorial statement. So the editorial statement has been carefully drafted to be broad, but also to delimit to some extent what it is we do and what it is we don't do. So I can say, is it a policy studies article? We are primarily a policy studies journal. So is it that? Do the citations, are you citing work in policy studies journals, and are you citing work in Policy and Politics? Are you engaging with debates here? I suppose the kind of fields where we often get submissions and often reject is papers that are a bit to political economy, a bit to international relations. And there are a wealth of journals in those fields that would be better fit for a lot of the submissions that we get. So I think that's would be my key kind of advice on the main reasons why we reject papers.
It sounds so simple when you say it, but I do think it's probably sometimes difficult for authors to judge. So what's the magic bullet? What's your top tips for making sure you're getting that relevancy?
So it's really to check if what you're arguing is speaking to debates that take place in the journal that you're submitting to, in this case, Policy and Politics. So is the key contribution that you have, is that something that will be of interest to readers in our journal? And the really quick thing to do there is really check the references. Like, are you referencing kind of policy studies and policy and politics kind of literature, or are your references mainly located in another field of social science research?
That sounds like a really quick win. And I suppose looking at back issues of the journal, as well as reading the editorial statement, is going to just give you more chances of success, right?
Definitely, looking to see if anything has been published in policy and politics in recent years that you can speak to is a really good advice as well.
Fantastic. So what else is going to improve people's chances of their manuscript getting accepted in policy and politics?
Yeah. So once you clear the kind of scope hurdle, one important thing that a lot of papers submissions fail to do is to be really clear about what their contribution is, and there, what's this kind of so what? Why does the field need to care about what you have to say? And here, a lot of studies are case studies. A lot of research that we do is case studies, but a case study has to be more important than just a case. It's so easy when you do case study research, most of us do study certain cases, but it's so easy when you do that to be pulled into the intricacies of the case, and sort of because you're really interested in it, and then you kind of presume that others are too. But it's really important with any contribution that there is a theoretical contribution that goes way beyond the case, and that often, that's what your contribution to the literature will be. And it's essential that there is such a contribution to a broader literature, one that is often theoretical and conceptual.
So this is the so what of your research, isn't it? And why do you think that's really hard to identify sometimes, isn't it, and to articulate? Why do you think that's particularly challenging for authors?
It's a skill. I think the skill that you learn to appeal to certain journals or to certain debates that might not be a debate that you have thought lots about, because sometimes that's what we do. We think we aim a paper at to contribute to debate that we haven't engaged with before, and that can be done really skillfully, and by the scholars who have much more experience than me and many more publications than me have developed that skill much better. So it is hard, and I recognize that it is hard for me too to always get that right. And it's also contributions have to be internationally relevant. It's easy, people are involved in policy and politics kind of contexts that are relevant in the country where they operate. And it doesn't matter if you're in, the US or Brazil or China or the UK or Spain or wherever. You need to make your findings relevant internationally, more broadly, and the way often to do that is obviously through kind of theoretical development and more kind of conceptual theoretical contributions, and that's how you move kind of beyond the case, because we do have we're an international journal. We get submissions from all corners of the world, and we've published a lot from a lot of different countries, and we've really succeeded in internationalizing the journal in terms of what we publish in recent years, and that's something we're really proud of. And it's therefore really important that it's not that our submissions aren't too nationally specific, that they do have that broader international appeal.
That's really good advice. Thank you. So far we have read the editorial statement and look at back issues to make sure your article is relevant for policy and politics, and foreground your scholarly contribution clearly and upfront in the article. Is there anything else? What other common mistakes might cause papers to be rejected?
I suppose you need to proofread your article. Obviously, sounds obvious, but we do get a fair few submissions that haven't been that carefully proofread. We do have, obviously, because we're an international journal, we get a lot of submissions from non-English speakers, and we're really happy about that. And we try to be really supportive about that. We do recommend authors to use English language editing service, and we do link to one on our website that we recommend. You can ask a colleague as well to maybe check your paper and make sure it makes sense. The initial submission doesn't have to be perfect, but it obviously needs to be clearly easily understandable.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all this invaluable advice, Oscar. And I think a lot of it sounds like common sense, but it can be challenging, and it will be helpful for prospective authors to just run through it again in this way. So how would you sum this all up?
Well, I mean, I want to recognize that it is difficult and it is competitive. I mean, we accept one paper out of every 6, roughly. So, most papers do get rejected for one of the reasons that we've talked about. So I would kind of summarize it as 3 points. One is that it fits with the scope of our journal. That's number one. Second, then, to really have a clearly articulated contribution to relevant literatures for policy and politics. And then the third one, to be relevant for an international readership and not just the context in the country that you work in.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Oscar. And thank you to everyone watching this video. We really do hope that it's useful for you. You won't be surprised that our final point will be to leave you with a link to the Policy and Politics website, where you can find Oscar's guidance if you're interested in submitting your next research article. If you are, we very much look forward to hearing from you. I'm Jess Miles, Digital Marketing Manager at Bristol University Press, and I've been in conversation with Oscar Berglund, co-editor of the Policy and Politics Journal. Please do get in touch if you have any further questions. Thanks, Oscar.
Thank you.